I thought today I would speak about Kundalini Kriyas and other bizarre symptoms that occur with Kundalini awakening. For those of you who don't know me, for one reason or another, about 15 years ago I had a massive Kundalini awakening, and I also work as a spiritual teacher and as a therapist. And so over the last 15 years or so, I've met with anywhere between 7 and 10,000 individuals across the world who've had an incredible spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening. And so at some point, because of meeting with so many different people and the power of the internet, I've become somewhat of an expert at this intersection between a massive awakening, a physical awakening, one's inner psychology, which creates the blockages in the nervous system, and then eventually how to heal and open those blockages so the Kundalini can flow. So first I thought I'd just speak about what Kundalini Kriyas are. As the energy starts to awaken normally in the base of the spine and as it rushing up the spine, sometimes it can create these jerking movements. And so a lot of times they'll be sitting in meditation and they'll start to get these little jerking movements. Sometimes it just happens with one arm. Sometimes it'll happen with just one eye. Sometimes it'll look something like this. I'll just demonstrate some of them for fun here. Yeah, that's a common one. The way it manifested in me mostly, oftentimes, was my arms coming up like this, and then my head going back like that. And so I'd sit down to meditate, and as soon as I would sit, my arms would spontaneously start to rise. And I have to be careful because when I demonstrate it, I can I'll just go into strange samadhi states where I can't think. And so oftentimes it comes with feelings of euphoria, feelings of bliss, feelings of total emptiness in a spiritual side. But on a mental, emotional, egoic side, for a lot of people who don't know what's happening, it can be quite terrifying. They could wonder, like, what is happening to me? What is wrong here with me and my body? Is there something greatly wrong? I've met with many people who've had no spiritual training, no spiritual practice, and then out of nowhere the Kundalini begins to awaken and they start to have strange body movements. It can get as extreme as the body spontaneously going into yogic asanas. I've had many students and individuals I work with who've reported just spontaneously going into wheel. And so if you don't know what wheel is, the asana, imagine my 2 feet on the ground and then my hands just bending over backwards and touching the earth. So my spine just arched, like a banana. Again, feet on the floor and, hands, the hands on the floor behind me. So sometimes it happens when we meditate a lot. Sometimes when we're doing a lot of yoga, this can wake up. And so there can be various asanas that come forward. People spontaneously sometimes go into lotus position. Sometimes the eyes just look up toward start to point up toward the third eye. Sometimes spontaneous mudras can arise. That happened to me. And individuals can, just wonder, like, why are my hands moving like this? And again, this can be strange. I'm trying to think of some other common ones. Little jerks, like little bit jerking motions. So sometimes people, again, who have no training, start to experience these spasms, and the hands will just move, or the hands will just, rise up. That's another common one. It'll just start rising up, head going side to side. And doing that for anywhere from 3 seconds to an hour and a half, again, is common. There can be some strange ones with the tongues, the tongue sticking out. Sometimes the tongue will stick out in the jaw. Sometimes we'll do strange things. And again, the reason I'm speaking about this is not, I'm not inviting anyone to start doing this or to try to make it happen. But just over the years, I've met with so many confused people who did not have a teacher, who did not have a path. And then these things started to arise, and then they were wondering if they're mentally ill. Now, I'm trained, in the realm of psychology. I have a master's in psychology and, work as a counselor, like a psychotherapist and a spiritual teacher who's also had a profound Kundalini awakening. This is a rare thing to find. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or sell my services. I'm more busy than I could ever imagine, so I'm not trying to get more students or clients with these videos, but more just to share information, because a lot of people, they just don't know where to get support from. And there was two great resources, that I used to share. One of them was Bonnie Greenwell, and her books are excellent on the topic. It's the only books on Kundalini I actually recommend. And Bonnie Greenwell was a great, she had a therapist, she had the same teacher as me, we were trained in a similar tradition, and had a similar type of awakening. But Bonnie's beginning to retire, and so I used to refer people to her, but now she's sending people back to me, and I would refer away if I was too busy. But her books are an excellent resource, so I recommend reading those. The problem with the ancient yogic text and visiting with gurus is gurus oftentimes don't understand the intersection of our internal psychological nature and how our internal psychology actually veils the chakra center, creating a blockage so that the Kundalini cannot flow through. So oftentimes people have told me they've gone to gurus with questions about having too much energy, too much Kundalini in their body, and the guru told them to do this mantra or just meditate more or meditate less. But a mantra often does not heal psychosomatic pain. It won't heal trauma that you experienced from your family member or your parents or something like that. So oftentimes I'll just give an example. As the Kundalini is starting to rise, and if you grew up in a house, like I did, where you were told you weren't allowed to have emotions, weren't allowed to cry or express yourself, oftentimes there's a constriction in the throat chakra. So the throat clenches, the heart feels closed because you don't feel loved, and as the Kundalini is trying to flow through there, it can't flow through the center, and so it gets stuck there. And then there can be, and pressure builds. When the pressure builds, there can be these strange movements, as the Kundalini is trying to force itself, through the spine, through the central column, up out the crown chakra. And so, these are the types of things I teach in my retreats and in my weekly satsang, and also in my individual sessions. So if anyone's having these, Kundalini Kriyas or spasms or involuntary jerking movements or eyes, or staying shut or teeth going like this, and you want support, that's what I do, and that's what I offer. Again, Bonnie Greenwell's books are excellent, and I offer the individual session and then a weekly satsang where you can ask a question. And I do my best to respond to those. But oftentimes, when we're going through something powerful like this, it's important to have a teacher that understands you, that knows you, and who can offer you some support. I can't stress that enough. I had great teachers. So I apprenticed under my teacher David for 20 years, studied with Adyashanti and many other great teachers around the world, and traveled to India and did all that kind of thing. And I'm also trained in psychology, and so it's helpful to have a good support system. But some other things you can do is get body work. It can be very helpful. Chiropractics can sometimes be helpful, sometimes quite harmful. Acupuncture can sometimes be helpful, sometimes harmful. Healing work can sometimes be helpful, sometimes be harmful. The reason I say it's sometimes harmful is oftentimes a well-intentioned practitioner will try to help, but they actually aggravate the energy. So if you work with someone who helps to calm your nerves and integrate the energy. Now, unfortunately, when the Kundalini does wake up, it wants to go all the way through the process. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle, but there is a way to soothe your body, help your body to feel more relaxed so the Kundalini can flow without any disturbance. Ultimately, if any of this or all of this has arisen within your consciousness, I encourage you to get some support. And the big teaching is, like I said a moment ago, can you breathe, feel, relax, let go, and trust the process? Breathe, feel, relax, let go, and trust. And the more you do your psychological healing work, so that you don't have these veils and blockages and heaviness and trauma throughout the nervous system, the more easily the Kundalini will flow and integrate and begin to create a more permanent space of spiritual awakening. So anyways, I hope that was helpful. And just for those of you who are struggling, I get so many emails from people who are struggling. I just want you to know there's help out there in my heart. My heart's with you. Breathe, feel, relax, let go, and trust. Trust that this process is divine. Is divine.